The decision of where to live in Israel as an English-speaking immigrant involves a delicate balance between comfort and integration, between maintaining familiar cultural connections and embracing a new linguistic and social environment that requires you to think in Hebrew while simultaneously trying to remember where you put your keys and whether you paid the electric bill. The size and nature of the English-speaking community in your chosen area will profoundly impact your absorption experience, affecting everything from daily social interactions and professional opportunities to your children's language development and your family's long-term integration into Israeli society, plus determining whether you'll still be ordering coffee in English 5 years from now while gesturing helplessly at the menu. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for making an informed choice that supports both immediate comfort and successful long-term absorption, assuming you can figure out what successful absorption actually means when you're still trying to understand why Israeli customer service operates on principles that would confuse professional anthropologists. English-speaking communities in Israel vary dramatically in size, concentration, and character across different geographical areas and community types, creating social environments that range from basically living in New York with better hummus to complete Hebrew immersion that makes language learning feel like survival training. Major cities like Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and Ra'anana host substantial English-speaking populations that include recent immigrants, long-term residents, temporary residents, and native English speakers working in international businesses or organizations, creating communities where you can maintain the illusion that you're successfully integrating while actually spending most of your time speaking English and wondering why you still can't understand Hebrew radio. These communities often maintain vibrant social networks, cultural organizations, and support systems that can ease the transition to life in Israel while providing ongoing connections to familiar cultural patterns and practices, plus the comforting ability to complain about Israeli bureaucracy in your native language with people who understand exactly what you're talking about. The advantages of living in areas with large English-speaking populations are numerous and particularly valuable during the initial absorption period when everything feels overwhelming and you're not sure whether you're failing at immigration or just having a really extended adjustment period. New immigrants often find crucial practical support from those who have navigated similar challenges, including recommendations for services, explanations of bureaucratic processes, and guidance on everything from finding appropriate schools to understanding cultural norms that may not be explicitly explained anywhere, but are definitely expected to be intuitively understood. These communities frequently maintain informal networks that help newcomers find employment, housing, and social connections, significantly reducing the isolation and confusion that can accompany major life transitions and the constant feeling that everyone else received an instruction manual for Israeli life that somehow got lost in your mail. Social and cultural familiarity within English-speaking communities provides emotional comfort that cannot be underestimated, especially when you're trying to figure out whether your inability to understand Hebrew conversations is because you need more language practice or because Israelis really do talk that fast about everything. Being able to communicate naturally and effortlessly, to share cultural references and humor, and to maintain social patterns that feel familiar can provide crucial psychological support during the challenging process of cultural adaptation that can make you question everything from your decision-making abilities to your capacity for learning new languages as an adult. Many English-speaking communities organize cultural events, holiday celebrations, and social gatherings that help maintain connections to previous cultural experiences while gradually incorporating Israeli elements, creating social environments where you can celebrate Thanksgiving and Sukkot with equal enthusiasm while discussing the challenges of finding cranberry sauce in Israeli supermarkets. For families with children, English-speaking communities often provide access to educational frameworks that can ease the transition while supporting bilingual development, assuming you can navigate the complex decisions about whether you want your children to maintain perfect English or develop perfect Hebrew, or somehow achieve both while also learning to be Israeli. Some areas offer schools with strong English language programs, international curricula, or dual language approaches that allow children to maintain their English proficiency while developing Hebrew skills, creating educational environments where children can be bilingual overachievers who speak both languages better than their parents do. The presence of other English-speaking families can provide children with peer groups who understand their linguistic and cultural background, reducing feelings of isolation or difference that might otherwise complicate social development and the normal childhood challenge of figuring out where they fit in socially. Professional considerations also play a significant role in the language and community equation, particularly for people whose careers depend on their ability to communicate effectively rather than just gesture enthusiastically and hope for the best. Many English speakers work in fields where their native language skills are valuable assets, including high-tech, international business, education, writing, and tourism, creating career opportunities that can make maintaining English proficiency feel like professional necessity rather than cultural comfort preference. Communities with substantial English-speaking populations often host more businesses and organizations that value English language skills, potentially providing better career opportunities for immigrants who are still developing their Hebrew proficiency and figuring out how to conduct professional meetings in a language where they still occasionally mix up basic vocabulary. The networking opportunities within established English-speaking professional communities can be invaluable for career development and business connections, creating professional environments where you can build your Israeli career while speaking English and gradually developing the Hebrew skills necessary for long-term professional success. However, living within large English-speaking communities can also create challenges for Hebrew language acquisition and broader cultural integration that can turn temporary comfort measures into permanent lifestyle choices without you realizing it's happening. The comfort and convenience of English language social circles may reduce motivation and opportunities for Hebrew practice, potentially slowing language development and limiting access to broader Israeli society in ways that can make you feel like you're living parallel to Israeli culture rather than actually participating in it. Children who attend English language schools or socialize primarily with other English-speaking families may develop excellent English skills but struggle with Hebrew proficiency, which could affect their long-term educational and professional opportunities in Israel and possibly create the awkward situation where your children translate for you at parent-teacher conferences. The concentration of English speakers in certain neighborhoods or communities can sometimes create cultural enclaves that remain somewhat separate from mainstream Israeli society, creating comfortable bubbles that can make integration feel optional rather than necessary for successful Israeli living. While these communities provide valuable support and cultural continuity, they may also inadvertently limit exposure to Israeli culture, social norms, and perspectives in ways that can make you feel like a permanent tourist rather than an actual resident. Long-term residents of heavily English-speaking areas sometimes find themselves less integrated into Israeli society than they intended, with social circles, cultural practices, and even shopping and entertainment preferences remaining largely unchanged from their pre-immigration patterns, creating Israeli lives that feel suspiciously similar to their previous lives, except with better weather and more complicated politics. Smaller cities and towns with modest English-speaking populations present different opportunities and challenges for language learning and cultural absorption that can feel either like exciting adventure or terrifying isolation depending on your personality and tolerance for linguistic confusion. These communities often provide more intensive Hebrew immersion experiences, as daily interactions necessarily occur in Hebrew and English language social options are limited to whatever other English speakers you can find, and possibly online communities that understand your struggle. This environment can accelerate language learning and cultural integration, forcing immigrants to develop Hebrew skills and cultural competencies more quickly than might occur in English-dominant areas, creating language development that happens through necessity rather than choice and can make you surprisingly functional in Hebrew without quite understanding how it happened. The reduced availability of English language services and social networks in smaller communities requires immigrants to engage more directly with Israeli institutions, customs, and social patterns, creating cultural immersion that can feel either incredibly authentic or completely overwhelming, depending on your daily energy levels and tolerance for constant translation challenges. This deeper engagement often leads to more authentic cultural understanding and stronger connections with local Israeli communities, creating integration experiences that can make you feel genuinely Israeli rather than like an English-speaking person who happens to live in Israel. Many immigrants in these settings report feeling more genuinely integrated into Israeli society, with Hebrew proficiency developing more rapidly and cultural adaptation occurring more naturally, though this success often comes with stories about early miscommunications that can make ordering food feel like international diplomacy. However, the challenges of living in communities with small English-speaking populations can be substantial, particularly during the initial absorption period when everything is new and confusing and you're not sure whether your difficulties are normal adjustment challenges or signs that you're failing at immigration. The lack of familiar cultural support networks can intensify feelings of isolation and confusion during an already stressful transition, creating emotional challenges that can make you question your decision-making abilities and possibly your sanity during particularly difficult adjustment moments. Practical challenges like navigating bureaucracy, understanding cultural norms, and accessing appropriate services become more difficult without the guidance of those who share similar backgrounds and experiences, creating daily life management that requires constant problem-solving and possibly professional-level Google Translate skills. Professional opportunities may be more limited in smaller communities with fewer English speakers, particularly for immigrants whose Hebrew skills are still developing and who haven't yet figured out how to network effectively in their second language. The absence of established English-speaking professional networks can make job searching and career development more challenging, requiring professional relationship building that happens entirely in Hebrew and can make career advancement feel like advanced language learning with employment benefits. Additionally, educational options for children may be more limited, with fewer bilingual or English language programs available, creating educational decisions that require choosing between language maintenance and local integration options. Religious considerations add another layer of complexity to language and community choices for English-speaking immigrants who want to maintain their religious practices while also figuring out how to be Israeli, which can feel like managing multiple cultural identities simultaneously. Many English-speaking immigrants are religiously observant and seek communities that support their religious practices while facilitating cultural absorption, creating community selection criteria that include both spiritual compatibility and practical integration support. Some religious communities have developed sophisticated approaches to balancing English language comfort with Hebrew development, offering services, classes, and social programs in both languages while emphasizing the importance of Hebrew proficiency for long-term integration, creating religious environments that support both spiritual development and practical Israeli living skills. The ultra-Orthodox English-speaking communities in places like Jerusalem and Bnei Brak have created comprehensive support systems that include English language religious services, educational institutions, and social networks that can make religious observance feel familiar and supported. These communities can provide remarkable support for religious families making Aliyah, creating environments where religious practice and cultural familiarity combine to ease the immigration transition, but they may also create environments where Hebrew development is less emphasized, potentially affecting children's integration into broader Israeli society and possibly creating long-term linguistic limitations that affect educational and professional opportunities. Modern Orthodox communities often strike different balances, emphasizing both religious observance and broader cultural integration in ways that can feel either perfectly balanced or constantly demanding depending on your energy levels and commitment to multitasking. These communities frequently prioritize Hebrew language development while maintaining English language religious and cultural programming, creating religious environments that support both spiritual needs and practical integration goals. The approach can provide excellent support for religious families while encouraging deeper integration into Israeli society, though it may also create community expectations for both religious observance and cultural adaptation that can make successful community participation feel like advanced social management. For secular English-speaking immigrants, the considerations may focus more on professional opportunities, social connections, and educational frameworks than on religious compatibility, creating community selection criteria that prioritize practical living considerations over spiritual community needs. However, the cultural aspects of community choice remain equally important, as secular immigrants must navigate questions about maintaining cultural traditions, developing Hebrew proficiency, and integrating into Israeli secular society while figuring out how to participate in Israeli cultural life without necessarily understanding all the historical and cultural references that everyone else seems to know intuitively. The timing of immigration and family composition significantly affect how language and community considerations should be weighted, creating decision-making processes that require considering both current needs and future development goals. Young adults without children may prioritize rapid Hebrew development and cultural integration, making smaller communities with intensive immersion experiences more appealing, despite the social challenges and occasional loneliness that can come with linguistic isolation. Families with young children might prioritize communities with strong English-speaking networks and educational support systems, accepting slower Hebrew development in exchange for easier family adjustment and the practical advantages of having other parents who understand the challenges of raising children while learning a new language and culture simultaneously. Older immigrants may find English-speaking communities essential for maintaining social connections and accessing services, as language learning becomes more challenging with age, and the energy required for constant translation and cultural navigation can feel exhausting rather than exciting. However, these same immigrants might also benefit from the cultural stimulation and personal growth that comes from engaging with Israeli society more broadly, creating personal development opportunities that can make language learning feel like adventure rather than obligation. If navigating these language and community considerations feels overwhelming, an easy Aliyah boutique concierge service can help you understand the practical implications of different community choices, connect you with current residents who can share their experiences, and guide you toward communities that balance your comfort needs with your integration goals. Long-term absorption success often depends on finding the right balance between immediate comfort and future integration goals, creating immigration strategies that support both psychological well-being and practical development. Many successful immigrants recommend starting in communities with substantial English-speaking support networks while gradually expanding social and professional connections into broader Israeli society, creating absorption approaches that provide necessary support during initial adjustment while maintaining momentum toward deeper cultural integration. This approach allows for necessary support during the initial adjustment period while maintaining momentum toward deeper cultural integration, creating immigration experiences that combine comfort with growth rather than requiring you to choose between feeling supported and becoming Israeli. The evolution of personal language and cultural preferences often surprises immigrants themselves, creating identity development that can feel either exciting or confusing depending on how comfortable you are with personal change and cultural adaptation. Many arrive convinced they want to maintain primarily English-speaking social circles, only to find themselves increasingly drawn to Hebrew-speaking friendships and cultural experiences that provide different perspectives and deeper cultural understanding than English-speaking communities can offer. Others begin with ambitious integration goals, but discover that maintaining strong English language cultural connections is more important to their happiness and identity than they initially realized, creating cultural adaptation that involves preserving certain aspects of previous identity while developing new cultural competencies. Professional Hebrew development deserves special consideration, as workplace language requirements often differ significantly from social Hebrew needs and can require vocabulary and communication skills that go far beyond ordering coffee and making small talk with neighbors. Many English-speaking immigrants find that their professional success depends on developing sophisticated Hebrew language skills that go beyond conversational proficiency into professional communication that can handle complex negotiations, technical discussions, and workplace politics conducted entirely in Hebrew. Communities with strong professional development resources, Hebrew language programs, and mentorship opportunities can significantly impact career advancement and professional satisfaction, creating environments where professional language development happens with community support rather than individual struggle. The digital age has changed some aspects of language and community considerations, as online connections can supplement local community resources in ways that can make Hebrew immersion feel less socially isolating. English-speaking immigrants can now maintain cultural connections and access support networks virtually while living in Hebrew-dominant communities, creating hybrid social environments that combine local immersion with global connection. However, digital connections cannot fully replace the practical support, spontaneous social interactions, and cultural familiarity that come from local English-speaking communities, particularly during crisis moments when you need immediate help and emotional support from people who understand your situation without requiring detailed explanation. Ultimately, the choice of community based on language and absorption considerations is deeply personal and depends on individual priorities, family circumstances, professional needs, and cultural values that can affect everything from daily happiness to long-term life satisfaction. Some immigrants thrive in intensive immersion environments that accelerate language learning and cultural adaptation, creating Israeli integration that happens quickly and thoroughly, while others require the comfort and support of familiar cultural communities to maintain psychological well-being during the challenging absorption process that can test personal resilience and adaptability. The key is understanding these trade-offs clearly and making choices that support both immediate adjustment needs and long-term integration goals, recognizing that these choices can and often should evolve as circumstances change and absorption progresses, creating immigration experiences that adapt to changing needs rather than requiring permanent commitment to initial community choices. An easy Aliyah boutique concierge service can help you evaluate these language and community considerations based on your specific situation, connect you with current residents who can share their experiences of different community approaches, and guide you toward communities that support both your comfort needs and your integration goals, while recognizing that successful absorption often involves evolving community choices as your Hebrew improves and your cultural understanding develops.